Okay, here we go. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for following us today online for this Open Club Day panel. We're here to discuss a bit for a short hour on how and why to support our local music scenes. I'm very pleased to be here today with two representatives of the music sector, Laura Ankamp from Court Circuit in Belgium.
Hi.
Hi, Laura. Feke Terval from the small music venue Echo in the Netherlands. And we are here with two representatives of the European Parliament as well, Iban Garcia and Niklas Nianas. Thank you very much for being with us today. My name is Audrey Guerre and I work for LiveDMA. LiveDMA is a European network representing live music associations. LiveDMA represents over 3,000 music venues, clubs, and festivals in 17 European countries. We're here to talk about live music venues, clubs, and festivals, which are the main providers for talent development in Europe. They are the social gathering places where people can enjoy a large range of music diversity. They are definitely an important part of our cities, of our neighborhoods and rural areas, and they have also a strong impact on their local economy. With the crisis, the live music sector is one of the sectors suffering the most of the pandemic. In September 2020, we released a study on the impact of COVID on live music venues, and we observed a decline of 70% of music events in 2020, which means 664,000 less artist performances than in 2019. And while these events are being cancelled, venues still have to pay their fixed cost and their financial loss is increasing every day. The situation is even more difficult for the venues which usually do not receive subsidies and for non-permanent workers that represent a third of the sector if we believe the study released by JESAC and EY last week. But this crisis is not only about financial damage, it's also a loss of new talents, it's a loss of skills of music professionals that might leave to work in other sectors. We're talking more and more now about the risks for the mental health and it's also the social life which is at stake. In the most recent study released in January called Stay Alive, the live music associations, as part of LiveDMA, call on governments to consult and anticipate the reopening of music venues and give answers about the festival season. And when reinforcing the restrictions that will affect the capacity to welcome audiences, governments should also immediately announce and process to compensatory measures. Talking about the EY study that was released earlier last week, the study also explained that the crisis will have a massive and lasting impact. In the study, it says that 46% of the surveyed people declared that they don't feel comfortable returning to shows for months. And 21% said that they don't feel comfortable returning to shows for years. In the countries where some music events took place in the last months, we also heard that the no-shows at events, which means people who bought a ticket but finally don't come to the event, increased from 8% in normal times to now 30%. So it definitely shows that the live music sector needs a long-term investment to stay alive. And on the occasion of Open Club Day that takes place every year in early February, we're here to discuss about the situation. And I think I will start with Feke, who's working in a music venue in Echo. If you could briefly introduce yourself and let us know what you've been through this last year and what's the perspectives.
Well, my name is Feike Terwal, and I work at Echo in Utrecht, the Netherlands. And we are a small venue of 300 capacity with live concert, but also club nights. And for us, it's, I think, basically the same for every venue in Europe, that we've been closed since March. But due to our small capacity and our monumental building, we are not allowed to have more than 16 people in our building. So therefore we could not do any programming in our own building. So we were lucky to cooperate with other venues in the town, in the neighborhood, who would lend us their space. So we were very thankful for that. So we could at least do some shows. But then the max capacity was most of the time 30 people. So that was not a lot either. And I think for us, I'm the community manager of Echo, and this basically means that I'm involved with all the different communities that we have. So not the traditional online community manager, but more offline. And the things we've noticed is that we work with a lot of volunteers. Last year around this time, we had 150 of them. We cannot offer them any safe volunteering in our own building. And due to the fact that we program at other locations, they also have their other staff. So we cannot really offer people, well, networking, but also friendship, also perspective on jobs. So I think you mentioned before that there was a lot of, well, a big loss of talents and skills. We definitely experienced that. But also a loss of booking agencies, small booking agencies that do not make it, or freelancers that do not have any work, or suppliers even that do not make it. So it's, for us, we are very lucky because we got supported by the government, by the municipality, and by the province, as we call it. So this means that our staff could more or less still operate, but I think we lost, well, we calculate that we lost 98% of our volunteers and 100% of our freelancers. So we were with 190 people around this time last year, and now we are with 16. So that's not much to go on. Mm-hmm. But as of course, the situation is that we're very flexible. We're always working towards innovative initiatives. So we keep our heads up, but it's been a bumpy ride, I think, mm-hmm. for everybody.
And how do you see the upcoming weeks or months? I mean, what's your perspectives? When do you think you will be able to return to your normal activity, or if normal will be?
Yeah, I think it depends on the road to recovery of our government. They have specific plans. This evening we will have a press conference again, so we will know a little bit more. To be honest, we were focusing on September to start doing things again, but it also depends on the vaccinations and on the current developments. So we thought September, but we're not so sure anymore. But we're willing to organize if we can. And if it makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Laura, can you tell us a bit what's the current situation in Belgium?
Yes, so hello, my name is Laura. I work for Court Circuit. Court Circuit is a federation for live music organization in Wallonia and Brussels. We represent 65 members, including 18 festivals, 33 music venues, and 14 organizations without proper venue. So concerning the situation, Belgium is on partial lockdown at the moment. The venues are closed to the public since the end of October and until further notice. Most of our festival members canceled their edition in 2020 and they are not sure if they will be able to do another edition in 2021. After the first lockdown, we had some venues who were able to reopen during the summer. but under restrictions, like 200 people maximum, seated with 1.5 meter as a social distancing. So it was not very viable financially. And it became even worse when the bar were closed, because for most of our members and the less subsidized bars are the principal financial activities, and it's even more important than ticket sales. So this entire period was very frustrating and full of uncertainties for our members, and they had to adapt continuously and nearly on a week-to-week basis. So now the venues are closed, but our members still host residencies and do live sessions, live stream concerts. They try to stay active and to work with the artists. And we had a meeting with our members just yesterday, and we were speaking of the exit and when we will be able to start again. And most of them agreed on the fact that they couldn't start without a bar. So that's the first thing. And we also spoke about the option of COVID testing at the entry. But for most of them, it couldn't be applicable for practical reasons, but also ethical reasons, because it's totally paradoxal, contrary to their spirit as a venue. So yes, and as the Live GMA Stay Alive reports highlighted, the concert organizers really follow the sanitary protocols. They made a priority to keep their public, their artists and their teams safe. But despite of this, we still look at venues as dangerous places where people can get easily infected. And as far as I know, there is no study to prove that. So I think there is clearly a lack of logic and maybe still some stereotypes that are persistent about music venues.
Okay, thank you, Laura. So yeah, you're saying that in reaction to the different measures, the sector is trying to adapt to have more flexible activities. You were also mentioning, Feike, that you're trying to find solutions and cooperating with other venues to maintain some kind of activity, knowing that we know in other European countries that venues partnered with health authorities to run some tests, especially for festivals or major events, but that those solutions are not always applicable for especially smaller venues. What would you say are the effects of the closures and restrictions on the cultural and social environment? You mentioned a bit about the volunteers, for instance. What could be the long-term effects of the pandemic on the venues environment?
This is a question for me, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for both of you. Sorry.
Laura, do you want to?
You can.
Okay. Well, I think for us, what you see is also, you mentioned something about mental health. This is not only the volunteers, but some volunteers are also musicians or artists, and it's for everybody. It's isolating. I think if you are a volunteer for either a festival or a venue, there's also part in you that wants to learn, wants to grow, but also wants to connect with other people. So I think this is the part that we try to provide online, but everybody knows that it's not the same. And I think people that already knew people from within the group are more likely to connect, but it's quite hard to be new in an environment and to connect online and to keep up this connection. So I'm a bit pessimistic about the damage that's been done, because I think that our sector needs, well, a few years to recover from this all. And of course that when I speak to our volunteers, I still call them our volunteers, even though they cannot do it at the moment. But I think it's interesting to see that people are good-spirited. They feel like, okay, if we can go again, then I will be there, and then we will get each other through this whole thing. And this has been the spirit all year. And I think it goes with ups and downs, and everybody is at a different pace somewhere. And yes, the situation is very, well, pessimistic, but I think especially the volunteers, they bring this positive side of life to it that I wouldn't miss for the world.
Thank you. Laura, do you want to add on this?
Yes, as you mentioned, the mental health problem will be a big problem if the situation keep be the same. And also, a part of organizing concerts, the venue also work with the communities, with the children, they often led social projects. So now everything is on pause, and I think, I don't know if when we will able to start again the concerts, they will automatically go back to this kind of activities. And we spoke about the possible lack of new talents, and I think it's kind of a big problem, because if artists can't be on stage, can't develop their projects, maybe we will have a lot of artists giving up on music, maybe. So yeah, there will be a big problem.
Okay, lots of risk and uncertainties that you're mentioning. I would like to give the voice now to Niklas Nienes, maybe, and could you please tell us, as a member of the European Parliament, what is your view on the situation, and how can you support the cultural sector going through this crisis?
Yes, I think that there is nothing else to say about the situation of the sector itself than it's devastating and catastrophic. At the moment, we all hear reports, and you all know that from first-hand experience how it is in the live sector, how it is for all the creative sector and everyone that's working in the sector as a whole. And what I find mostly shaming is the response from politics in this regard. I have to say that a lot of member states have seen, so first of all, the European Parliament has only limited possibilities to intervene in cultural affairs. So the main areas of focus are the member states, or maybe even regional entities like in Germany. And what we've seen so far is basically that everybody's distributing responsibility to one each other. So in Germany, I know that they have now a support for artists in place, which is minimal, which is really just to cover the livelihood, while we at the same time support big companies in a very big manner. And I think it's a shame and it's a pity on the way and how we do it. We asked, as Culture and Creators Friendship Group, which is a foundation within the European Parliament of several members who are interested in supporting the creative sector additionally to what we do in the Parliament. And we form an alliance there. And we asked in a resolution from the whole Parliament to distribute at least 2% of the Corona help response and the so-called RRF, Resilience and Recovery facility, which is 600 billion euros. We asked that 2% should be distributed into the CCS. And that request was not met by the Council. Instead, at least not mandatory. Now it is 5% voluntary, which means nothing at all, because in the end, I mean, the member states have the ability to basically put 100% in the CCS, right? So it really is at their verge at the moment, which I think is a pity from Council's side to not do more for the culture and creative sector. And what I'm afraid of the most is actually when you look at the whole scene in Europe, we see that especially in those countries where we have a tendency to more authoritarianism, that there the support for creators and for the scene, for live performance venues is especially low if those do not support the government itself. So if you are, let's say, a very keen music producer who makes music in favor of Orban, you get funding, you get support, you will survive this crisis. If you do something freely, if you're critical, even then you will not get support. And you know that there are a lot of ventures who are key to bring people together who are a little bit of opposition in those countries, and they face the biggest consequences at the moment, and they face the biggest threat. What I hope to do from here, what I think where we need to go in the future, is to really combine the support measures that we have for Corona, for the crisis itself, with also future issues that we will have at hand. For one example, there was anyway a discussion concerning how can we future-proof, meaning climate-proof, the cultural sector and the cultural industry, because we know that some production tend to use more carbon dioxide, and also we talk about venues that need to be modernized, etc. And if we could combine these two aspects, I think that's a very good way forward, because then we tackle two crises at once. But there is certain support from certain groups in this parliament, also in other national parliaments. But in the end, what I think we need is a European response to it, because what we want to keep is European diversity of culture. And we can only keep that diversity if we really assure that all creators, all venues, all producers, everybody who is in the CCS survives this crisis. And we can only do that if we ensure it from the European level. And that is missing at the moment. We're talking about European Bauhaus now from the Commission, great initiative, but not what we need at the moment. At the moment, we need a fast response to survive the crisis for the whole sector. And that's what I'm missing so far, and where we are really trying to hit hard on Commission, on member states, on the Council, but are getting few responses. I have to say more than in the beginning. We warned about this very early on and weren't heard at all. We even had members of the council come to us, culture ministers, who asked us for support when really the council is blocking everything. So it's really hard to get through, and it's a real fight at the moment concerning the funds and the money in the member states and the governments. And I think we need to be more vocal and show the people that culture is really important, and that we all would just go crazy at home if we would not have culture and cultural exchange, and that people want to come together again.
Well, thank you for your strong message. I think it's also very important for the people who are following us today to see that they can rely on a strong support from the parliament. You were also mentioning some key topics like the freedom of expression, the independence of the sector, and also the concerns regarding the climate change and how to support the sector in its own transition. These are very strong words, and I guess it's also an actions that we're trying to lead together on bringing these voices and this support to make some changes. Maybe Iban, could you tell us more? You mentioned, Niklas, the call to the governments to dedicate part of the funding of the recovery to the CCS, to the cultural and creative sectors. Could you please explain us a bit more what's your recommendation as a member of the Cultural and Creators Friendship Group?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you today. We are so aware what the situation is. We are not feeling at a personal stake, but we are aware that it's a horrific situation in a lot of ways. I think we have to assume that some part of it is unavoidable because the pandemic and the pandemic create certain conditions that are unavoidable because yes, this kind of activity that are supported mostly for live music, for live activity and public performing. It's hit hard. Harder than other activities, but we have to know that the activity from and the measures made by governments throughout the European Union are so different. We have so many different levels of protection, so many different levels, even to the conditions in which a live performing could be done. So we have to take note of this. But yes, going through your question, we approved at the final of last year at the European Parliament a motion about our asking to the governments of member states, and we have been calling on the member states and the commissions to dedicate at least 2% of the recovery and resilience facility to the cultural and creative sectors and industries. Just in this regard, I think the activity from and the coming of this asking is not the same as well in every member states. But I think we have to strive more, to achieve an amount higher than nowadays. We've talked about reduced VAT rates for cultural goods and services. We told about improved valuation of intangible assets, introduce tax credits and tax motivation tools for cultural production, improve the social protection systems and the working conditions for the workers in the cultural and creative sectors. We have to recognize that the conditions of the cultural sector is so different from other traditional fields of the working field. We have to know that, for instance, questions like temporary workers are much higher than in other sectors. We have to improve to secure equal accessibility and inclusiveness for the distribution of cultural funding. We asked to protect the future of the cultural ecosystem under the pressures brought by the green and the digital transitions. This is absolutely related to the recovery plan of the European Commission. And we asked to include cultural and creative sectors in all financial supporting tools, such as the Invest EU and the Next Generation EU. But there are a lot of much more things that we could do, and we asked as well to support the situation nowadays. I absolutely agree with Niklas in this. We have to go through this question straight away, but I think we have not to forget that there is future as well, and we have to make sure that the supporting of your activity in the future, because the very big problem, and we are foreseeing the future, is the lack of confidence, and will be so for many months and even years. It's not only a question of the vaccine, because people lost confidence and will be so in a while to be part of a collective performing. In this regard, I think campaigns and initiatives like the initiative from the Spanish government is so profitable. The question that the culture is secure. They made a hashtag for Twitter and Nets talking about secure culture. The culture is secured, and you have to be sure that when you go to a public live performing, you're absolutely secured, and will be the same in the future. More or less, just for the moment, I think everything that is important, I think, are encompassed in this motion we approved, and I hope the European governments will be keen to approve measures that put in real life this asking, because I think it's so important that at least a percentage will be absolutely granted for cultural and creative sectors. And this is not impossible to combine with general measures introduced with any other sectors that are related to the recovery facility, but we have to grant at least a certain percentage for cultural creative sectors, because this is the weakest sector, I think, I reckon, in all our economic field. And in addition, and I think this is important as well, and I finish with this, in addition, we have to make sure that the diversity of our culture, that is ourselves, the diversity of our culture is granted for the future as well, that this crisis doesn't erase some important part of our diversity.
Thank you very much for your inputs. We will surely continue to put pressure on governments to dedicate more recovery funds to culture. You also mentioned a point about awareness and the fact that culture and going to a live event is actually quite safe. It also connects with what Laura said earlier, that music venues often suffer from quite bad stereotypes about their own activity. And actually, it's also what pushed us to coordinate Open Club Day, so to raise awareness about the values, the shared values of music venues, and especially values such as diversity that you were mentioning. So Open Club Day is a concept that was born in Switzerland with the organization SBCK and PETSI, which represents venues, clubs and bars. And we as LiveDMA, we coordinate this action since 2018 at European level in the framework of a network funding from Creative Europe program, Lifestyle Europe. And usually on Open Club Day, music venues open their doors on a daytime. So that we can discover what's behind the scenes. It's a friendly moment with families and neighbors to discover the venue's jobs and activities. But with this special context, we know that on this Saturday, 6th of February, the doors of most of the music venues will have to remain closed. Some music venues will organize online activities, and we call on all music lovers to join the event and show their support by signing a statement that will be translated and released a little bit later today in several EU languages. So getting back on Open Club Day and on music venues, maybe Nicholas, you want to say a word on why music venues are such important places in the cultural landscape?
Yes, actually, just before you mentioned it, I wanted to say basically the same point, not about music Open Club Day, but in the direction, the questions, how can we assure the people that the safety is there? We can do this certainly with a hashtag. I think, though, that what really impresses people the most is experience, and to see that not just themselves and not just the venue owners say it's safe, but also other people, and also the government, etc. So what I envision is, and there really comes in play the question of what can the regions do and what can the municipalities do in order to support that, to have, as soon as we have the possibility for it, as soon as we have vaccinated more people and we have more safety out there, that we open all the doors at the same time, and that we have a big cultural festival in every city. So that not so much that to show new nuances, but rather to assure people that safety is back there. And I think that's really important thing to do. We are at the moment planning a similar issue in my hometown of Rostock, where the city itself took a little bit of money that they saved at other places because they didn't have to pay fees for markets or something like that, and they used this money to have street musicians pop up on places and have open air. Now it's very cold, but still open air culture experiences, and that's important so people still remember that there is culture. And I think venues play a major role in this, because they are the places where people can come together and where they where you can express your attachment to culture and also find other people who do the same. I think that's very nice to see all the time. So they're key in this issue of bringing people together and really reaching out for diversity and for expression and for dialogue, really. So what we need in future, probably as soon as possible, and everybody who is in the scene and in the who is an owner or who's working volunteering in a venue, please get in contact with all the regional and local politicians, also obviously from member states as well. But I think it's already a lot of help if those people who are in the council in your region where your venue is are supportive of this idea. And as soon as they see we have the possibility that the plans are already made and that you can have an open festival where we all get out, where we can all experience, where we have maybe a very cheap ticket so that you can go from one venue to the other or something like that, supported by the city, supported by the venues themselves, supported by the creators, to really for once make people want to hang out there again, make them happy for culture again, and at the same time really suggest to them, look at it, it's safe. You're safe here, we can all come together, we can have one big event and there's no bad consequences. That's obviously what we need. At the same time, we must not do this too early and have then a major outbreak, because there is a fear, obviously, and we know of certain places where we have for example, in Germany, the first major outbreak was actually in a carnivals show, so it was a cultural event, and the statistics say a little bit, when you have lots of people inside with a lot of alcohol, I think this combination really is that breaks these boundaries, where you stop to follow the protocol, stop following the mask safety issues. Maybe we can start with leaving the alcohol out of the equation. Maybe that already brings a little bit more safety, something like that. But if we show people that it can work with the right measures and that safety is there, I think then people will come back pretty soon. And for that, we need one big momentum to really show, see, we had a great event and it still worked out fine. Basically, everybody were there, so please be safe and feel safe and come again.
Thank you for your idea. You're highlighting the need of cooperation between cities and venues at local level to bring this action together. I would also add that the professionals working in music venues, they have usually long experience in managing crowds, especially with different risk of alcohol abuse and so on. So they also have this expertise to keep their crowds safe during events. Thanks a lot for your ideas. Iban, would you like to comment on it and tell us, in your opinion, why music venues are such important places in the cultural landscape?
Yes, of course. First of all, we have to have clear that culture is a human right. First of all, and we have to have this crystal clear, because we are talking about something is more important than other things. In this regard, we have to, as I said before, we have to make sure that that the diversity, that cultural activity is available for most people, for all people, to be more clear. In this regard, I like to a quote by a great Spanish poet, Federico García Lorca. I guess that you know him very well. That said, when he was told about if we were hungry, what do you ask for? No, and he asked, "Do not give me bread, give me half a bread and half a book as well." Because we need both of them just to be fed up, no, to be nurtured. In this regard, I think we have not to relax the measures, the current measures. We have, yes, we have to learn about the experience that we know nowadays, that currently we know. In this regard, experiences that I know very well, like the Spanish one, demonstrate that culture is secure by under certain circumstances. We don't need to reduce the average of people to the 10%, because experience demonstrated us that almost no contagion was made in cultural performing. This is important. Just talking about which kind of activities are so proper to be made or not. And I think we have to highlight that culture is safe, that we have to save culture as well. We need as well to support our local artists and supporting cultural venues and clubs that are essential to their development. Their roots, they are roots that will allow our artists and performers to grow bigger again. We have a motto in the European Union, united in diversity. For this diversity, we have to make sure that cultural diversity is granted. And in this regard, I'd like to ask to the member states and even European Commission to make a bigger effort to support the activity and to support this little capilla net like venues that are throughout all the union, but they support our cultural diversity and the cultural right to access, to the human right to access the culture. You have all our support. Don't hesitate to suggest us whichever measure that could be taken in order to ease your situation and to grant the future for all and for you and your sector.
Thank you for mentioning that the venues are the roots to grow artists, and that the cultural diversity also goes through these music venues. Thank you very much. Fake, I'd like to come back to you because you've participated in Open Club Day these last years, and I would like to ask you why it's also an important event for you and for your venue.
Well, I think before I'm going to answer that question, I would like to add something to Niklas and Ivan, because I think that sometimes we underestimate the influence of the club life, of the nightlife, and it gets forgotten in this whole debate because we're talking about live music, get together, and Niklas also mentioned like the abuse of alcohol, but I don't think that people necessarily always abuse alcohol. So I think we can also take a stand for the nightlife itself, because most of the time the nightlife doesn't get funded. We are a venue that provides live music, but also nightlife as well. So we are kind of lucky that we got supported, but there are so many clubs also in this sector that are part of this sector that do not that are not as lucky as we are. So I just wanted to say that in terms of diversity of culture, we should not forget nightlife. But then we organized Open Club Day. We started actually for our volunteers, so they could bring their families and their friends to show what they are actually doing. And we had a lot of curious neighbors coming around as well. So I think that was 3 years ago. And then every year we repeat it it's literally an open club day. We show what we do. We invite some artists from bands to DJs to show what they got. And this year we had some plans, but due to the extended lockdown, we could not do this at a small capacity in our venue. But it's quite interesting to show people what you do, because some people walk in and they see an artist on stage and they do not realize how many people you need to actually get this artist on stage, and what work the artist does when the artist is not on stage. So I think it's a very clear insight on the daily base of running an actual club or venue. And it proves very useful for us in a way that people, especially the neighbors, they're way more willing to understand us. And also, I think this dialogue also leads to new experiments or even new program, new volunteers. I think it's an enrichment of our whole organization.
Thank you, Feike, and thank you for also mentioning the nightlife, which is deeply suffering from the closures since March, because if some venues were able to reopen partly during the summer or during the autumn, most of the clubs are actually closed for 1 year now. Most of them are private entities that were not used to receive subsidies, and it was sometimes even more difficult for them to be eligible under the cultural funds for recovery. Thank you for highlighting this. Laura, what's your plan for this edition on Open Club Day in Belgium? Can you give us a short teaser?
Yes, so we have 15 venues participating to this virtual Open Club Day. So of course we don't have any activities involving public. So we collectively decided to do a kind of an online communication campaign to put a light on all the efforts and hopes our venues have put to remain active during the pandemic, and also to raise awareness to the emergency of the situation of our venues. So we'll basically have live streams on our members' Facebook page to show what's happening nowadays behind their doors. And we also have made a short documentary to provide kind of an overview of what the people in the venues have been working on during the last month, and how they'll struggle to still give the artists a place to develop their projects and to connect with their audience.
Right, looks very interesting. We will update all the programs of the different venues participating in Open Club Day on our website, openclubday.com, and also share on Saturday the different initiatives. So if you're interested in following the activities, do not hesitate to follow us also on the social medias, where we will share all the different initiatives. And the goal with this Open Club Day on Saturday in this special context is also to share the statement, to show your support to the local music scene. So do not hesitate to check it online and join the movement. We're getting to the end of this panel. I will open a round of questions if there are. Maybe it needs sometimes to bring back the questions from the social medias to this conversation. If you also have a question to one to another, do not hesitate. In the meanwhile, I do have a question for Iben and Niklas. That with the new long-term EU budget on the way, how can we make sure that the future funding programs, such as Creative Europe, for instance, take into account the severity for the live music sector? Do you have some views on that? It's a tricky one. Who wants to answer that? Iben? Yes.
Thank you. Just to answer directly, this program, for instance, Creative Europe, was fattened a lot in the last negotiation about the new budget and the new framework for the next 7 years. And there is one feature important for you, that Creative Europe for once has included the music that was not the case in the past. So you have to be watching the development of this tool, because I think you'll have a lot of things to support your activity in this program. But I think maybe we'll have more tools, because we are trying throughout our friendship group with Niklas and other colleagues. We are trying to strive for more supporting, for more funding for cultural for cultural activities. We are, for instance, trying to fight for such a bond, a cultural bond, just for spending from young people and unemployed people in cultural activity. That was the case in some programs made by member states or regional governments. I think this kind of things trying to engross a bit the cultural spending and the cultural activity are going to be important. But in addition, and besides all, we have the recovery and resilience tool, and we have to strive to our governments at a national level to grant some part of them to the cultural sector and to music, live music sector as well. You have to strive for. We are striving for our side to grant this at a national level, but you and your associations and your colleagues have to press national governments, because cultural and creative sector is included and literally included in this resilience facility. So you have to make realize your local government that it is so.
Okay, thank you. Niklas, do you want to add something on it?
Yes, exactly. Iben said already quite a lot. Right points. First of all, the recovery and resilience facility, which is important, that you also get active and request from the member states that the funds are actually used. The money is there. The member states and the politicians need to be persuaded, whatever influenced, that they use the money. They have more than enough. Also, what we achieved for the Creative Europe program is really big. We got a big increase in the overall project. To be fair, as always, this project is heavily underfunded, because we know from the past program that we had around 80% of projects who had to be cancelled or were not funded, not because they were not good, but because we just didn't have the funding for everything. And that really shows that the need is there, and that we really need to increase that funding even more. Iben rightly said that the music sector is now supported as well in this funding period, which is great. So I think it's getting better, at least from let's exclude a little bit the whole crisis type, because for that it's not adequate, but from a normal standpoint, it's definitely a big step forward. It's not enough yet. And one point that I want to mention now, that's fairly important, I think, for the whole live music sector, especially also for touring artists and also for venues who work together with British partners and British artists, is the whole Brexit issue. And there's a big problem and a big issue concerning the visa freedom for artists. There will not be, at least with the current status, will not be a visa freedom free movement for artists in either way. So it will be very hard for European artists to actually go abroad to the UK and have a tour there, and the other way around as well. To be honest, it will be very hard for you to book British artists at all, because it will be very important, because they need a visa permit. They need additional for every touring equipment that they bring, be it instruments or whatever, or technic. They will have troubles and have to pay extra. And if you're interested in that topic, we're doing just today a webinar on this issue together with a politician from Britain and some people from the scene from Britain and from Europe. It starts at 7:30 today. More information on my website. And if you're in UK, then it starts obviously 1 hour earlier, so it's 6:30.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. It's also on our own agenda, and we'll be there tonight to follow this discussion. Talking a little bit about the future of the music sector, we have a question from Hugo on Facebook. Maybe this question will be for Feike or Laura. I feel like the COVID-19 situation gave a new insight on the cultural world. For us, it was the opportunity to refocus on the small, medium artists that are a bit hidden from the big ones. It was actually nice to be in a context where the focus was only on helping the small ones. Does anyone has thought about this when COVID is over? Should we come back to the pre-COVID situation, or is there a new live music world coming? What's your myth? I mean, we're lacking a bit of time, but if you have a quite short input on this. Yeah,
as you want.
Sorry. Go on, Laura.
Yeah, we observed that among our members that they programmed emerging and local artists during all the crisis for financial reasons, principally. But I forgot to mention something positive that happened during the crisis, is that all the actors of the music sector suddenly were on the same boat, so they started to exchange, to gather, to create what we call the CCMA in the French-speaking part of Belgium, which is a consultation committee for popular music, and it's kind of a small revolution, because we know that the music sector is not very structured, and now we have this platform to be able to collaborate with each other, like concert organizer, but also labels, PR, artists, technicians. And I think this will be very valuable to, as you said, the next live music world, and to address issues of the live music sector, such as like the gender gap in music, the quotas for broadcasting Belgian artists, and also for the artistic status. So yeah, I would say that concerning the structuration, it's very encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. It's good to hear that at least there are some kind of positive impacts, that the music sector is working more closely as a whole. Feike, do you want to add something about this? How do you imagine the future live music world? Would it be the same as it was before?
Well, I think things will be different. What it will look like, I'm not sure yet, but I think that in a way, the place where I work, Echo, is already, well, a platform for talent and emerging artists. So for us, it's maybe not that different because this focus has always been on these artists. But I do think for the bigger venues, that is good for them to keep in mind that we have a lot of inspiring and talented artists in our own country that deserve a stage as well. So I hope that people will not forget it. And I think this is a lesson learned from this time. But yeah, I can only hope.
All right, just to conclude this session, what would you say, what would be your last word on what do you expect from policymakers going through this crisis?
Well, I think I expect trust. This is a big thing because we need trust and experiment in order to rebuild or reshape our landscape again. So I think this is, the future music industry depends on the diversity of culture, and therefore you need trust for every person or organization to develop themselves in a new way.
Yeah, it was a little bit the thread of this discussion today. I feel like how we work on together to bring this support by trusting each other and showing that going to a live concert is secure. Laura, would you like to add something on this?
Yes, you mentioned trust, and I think it's the main thing. And also getting better recognition and better consideration for the people working in the venues who really struggles to keep their place safe. And I've heard that Iban talked about the fact that we need the cultural sector's workers to have a real status and to be recognized for their professional activity. And then what we expect is that since we have no idea how long the crisis will last, I think the main thing that we can expect is financial support, and to keep going this financial support, and maybe also better consultation of the live music sector in order to implement appropriate measures.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Ivan, Nicholas, thank you very much for being with us today. I'm really looking forward to continue to work together, to put pressure, as you said several times, on the government, on the council, on the commission, to make sure that there's fair support to the music sector in order to safeguard this diversity, this freedom of expression, the independence of the sector, and also to support them in going through their transition. You can add a last word, otherwise I will say thank you again. You can find this recording, it will stay on the social medias. I invite you to check on what's going on this Saturday for Open Club Day. Thank you for being with us today. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. Maybe
Thank
encouragement for to tackle this situation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you, Feike. Thank you very much for your inputs.